Okay, welcome back. It's another week, getting ready to kick off a weekend of week 4 college football. Randy in an undisclosed location. He's in the witness protection program this week. And myself, Fletch, thanks for being with us. We're going to jump right into some really cool stuff. What a great weekend we had last week. So week 1 and week 3 turned out to be some really, really good football. And what do you take from last week's great games, Randy? You start off with Bama. This is being a Bama fan. So what did you take away from that game?
Well, I thought. You're right. Last week was a great week for football. The Alabama Florida game. Of course, I may watch that game different than a lot of people do. It ended up being a really good game, and Florida kind of ran all over Alabama by committee. They had a running back that had 90 some yards, and the quarterback had 80 yards, and they were able to do that. But the thing that stuck out to me in that game, and I told you last week that I still had questions about Bryce Young, and I felt like Alabama had so many opportunities to put that game away. Playing in a tough environment. Um, Bryce Young had wide open field in front of him several times at the end. Touchdown instead of a field goal makes a huge difference, and he's rolling out and there's nobody there. He literally can walk into the end zone, and he decides to throw the football. So I still question some of his decisions. I understand that he's young and all that, but still not sold on it. And I guess we're not going to find out much this week, but we'll for sure find out more next week when they play Ole Miss.
Yeah.
And so, that was my feeling. They made the game closer than I thought it should have been. Got to tip your hat to Florida, and Dan Mullen's a great offensive guy. He knew what to do, what to make work, made the adjustments, made the big comeback. So you can't take anything away from Florida for what they did in that game. Very impressive on their part, but I still thought Alabama had several opportunities to put that thing away, and then they just didn't do it.
Yeah, right off the bat, it was what, 21-3 at
Yeah,
early, was that right?
at one point, yes.
And I was like, okay, it's just another team that thinks they're going to play with Bama and they're not going to do it this year. And we had a birthday party going on, so I was doing all kinds of stuff. I was trying to catch the Buckeye game later. I think they were about the same time at the 3:30 hour. And then before I knew it, it was like, okay, hold on, pump the brakes. Bama's, in a fight. And so it was interesting how they were able to run the football. Probably what I heard on the radio speaks some truth with it was probably a great game according to Saban because they won and he's got a lot of things to yell about. So,
Yeah.
so those guys can't sit around thinking, oh yeah, So he's like, he was chewing about the
Mm-hmm.
run defense and stuff. So yeah, like you said, this week won't tell us a whole lot. They'll probably just do a lot of rotations and get some reps and some younger guys. Other teams doing the same. But next week, another big one. It seems like every other week we got some big games coming. Next week, the big one against Ole
Right.
Miss. So that'd be really interesting. So yeah, hats off to Florida. They didn't fold like a lawn chair when they were down 21-3, which is easy
No,
to do against anybody, let alone Bama. So they made a game of it. I know we both watched that Penn State Auburn game, and taking it from a couple guys that have no dog in the fight, other than Ohio State's in the Big Ten. That was just one game to sit back and enjoy it, eat some popcorn, and just watch them go at it. And never really knew who was going to win that game till the end. That was just an enjoyable game to watch. The fans are
yeah.
crazy. It's nice to see football like that back in action.
Oh, that was an awesome game, and the atmosphere was just unbelievable. I truly believe if those two teams play, who's ever at home is probably going to win that game. Of
Oh
course,
yeah,
Penn State is one of the toughest places to go and play. The fact that Auburn was to be able to go in there and be very competitive, says something a little bit about them
oh
because
yeah,
that place was crazy, and I was impressed with Penn State. They came out to play. They had the crowd behind them. Like I said, I was just amazed at the wide out and the noise, and that's college football, man. That's what makes it awesome. But you're right, that was a heck of a game. Wasn't sure who was going to win it until the very end. And honestly, I thought those teams were pretty evenly matched.
yeah, yeah. I certainly agree. It was enjoyable. I remember it was either first or second play from Penn State, and they did a reverse or something. I was thinking, you don't do that in the first quarter. Nobody's gassed yet. You save that for the fourth quarter when everybody's out of gas. So I questioned that play call. No big deal, but it was just both teams dug down deep when and fought back when they got some deficits, and hard fought game. Crazy turnover there late by Auburn, and a goal line stand. Heck of a cat, it's just great game, great atmosphere. I thought it might even go to overtime at one point, and it didn't.
Yeah.
But and I agree, if they played that game down at wherever Auburn plays, I don't know what city they're in. Is it unless the city is Auburn? Okay, I wasn't sure. It's probably going. It probably goes the other way. Yeah, there's no doubt.
Auburn's in Auburn.
Okay, I wouldn't. Never been there, so I didn't know what his name is. Say so. Yeah, you learn something every day, right? So yeah, they down at home, tough place to play down there. It probably goes the other way. Maybe even the same score or close enough, because they were both evenly matched in different ways. I think Auburn had a much better running game, and I think Penn State really had that dynamic receiver, that Jahan Dotson. He's something else. So it remains to be seen what kind of year he's going to have. But he could, he's like kind of their go-to guy to a certain extent. And both of them just had tough defenses. Even though there was 28 and 20 points scored, it wasn't like the defenses were getting destroyed. That was some hard-hitting football. Good game. That was a great game to end the day on, even though there was games much later than that. But I can't stay up that late. So
one of the things that I kind of question on Auburn, they have that, Tank Billingsley, right?
Bigsby or something like that, or
Yeah, and he finished with 100 yards, but I'm just thinking, why are you not feeding him the ball 25 times? I mean, he's supposed to be one of the best running backs in the country. You got him there, and they kept switching him in and out, in and out, in and out. And there was a few series he wasn't even in the game. I don't know if there's a reason for that or not, but I was just thinking that game, I'm like, I give him the ball 25, 30 times.
Yeah, was he there? Is he their freshman out of the two running backs? Because I know one of them is a freshman. I can't remember which one it is.
Tank Billing. I'm not sure that he's a freshman. I think he was.
Okay. So yeah, sure. My only guess would be that if he's the freshman or whatever he's not, if he's not excellent pass protection, picking up blitzes and stuff. I know, talking about Ohio State real quick, that Travion Henderson had a unbelievable day running the football, but there were a couple of times where CJ Stroud got destroyed on one sack where I can't believe he didn't see the guy coming because it wasn't a blind side. Yeah. But Henderson just had no idea who was going to block, But he's a freshman, so that stuff happens.
Birthday party here this week. They're having Nerf wars out there, so it might get crazy.
That's all right, no problem. So yeah, we're kind of lined that way with traditionally. You got a nice back, you feed him the rock, and a lot more than the other guy. You get in a groove, and then what happens is late in the fourth quarter, that guy becomes dominant because you're wear down the other team, and so that they could have done that, if they would have stuck with one guy. And I do agree that Bigsby guy is pretty dynamic. Anytime you got a guy named Tank running the football, you want to go ahead and give him the ball.
Like I said, the atmosphere of that game was just crazy. I'll tell you, the atmosphere in Florida was something too.
Yeah, the swamp, absolutely. That's and Bama coming to town. That was just a no-brainer there. That was that place is going to be rocking. I mean, Alabama's used to that. Everywhere they go, it's the Super Bowl. So yeah.
Right.
So yeah, and then I was impressed with Spartans going down and taking care of business against the U. Still don't know how great of a team the U is, Miami and Florida, but they got blown up by Bama. Sparty dominated them pretty decently, nothing like Bama did, but pretty decently, and they've lost 2 home games. They may not be the team that everybody was hoping they were going to be from an ACC standpoint. So, it's going to be interesting to see what kind of season Michigan State has once they get into Big Ten tournament play. Not tournament, but Big Ten regular season play.
Right.
And then UC, when UC started out, I thought, okay, they're not the team I thought they were. They were just not doing anything good against Indiana. And boy, the second half just turned it around. Kickoff return for a touchdown, answering a touchdown by IU. And then the wheels just fell off and UC won the game. So hats off to them. Great, power. Was that a group of 5 win? Talk about a gauntlet. They're off this week, and then they go to Notre Dame. So UC's got 2 with a bye week in between, back-to-back tough road games. So,
it'll it'll be interesting. It's kind of, you know, it's kind of exciting. You know, UC's, you know, doing very well. To be interesting. You know how they do when they come up against those teams the next couple of weeks. Notre Dame.
Yeah, they, you know, they're.
And,
I watched a lot
going
of
down.
that game. They're scrappy. They got some fast players. I don't typically your group of 5 teams. You're not very deep, so going up against certain Power 5 teams, you know, and Notre Dame is not necessarily your typical Power 5 team. So it'll be interesting to
Right.
see how that game goes in the fourth quarter. So, but then that's next week. So, but no big deal. So, yeah, we're getting into games this week. So let's kick it off with the big one. And to me, it's one of the bigger ones, A&M and Arkansas.
Oh
When's the
yeah.
last time these teams are 3-0 facing each other? You know, it's probably been a while.
Well, it's been a while for Arkansas. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
you know, and I watched Arkansas, and I mean they look very good. I mean their defense looks strong and all that, but you know I don't think they've seen a team quite like Texas A&M. The only issue with Texas A&M now is their quarterback. You
Right.
know, they got quarterback issues there, but you know if they work that out, you know I still think Texas A&M is a very solid team. Returned a lot of people from last year, and you know last year we kept thinking well maybe they're not that good. They're going to go down. They're going to go down. Well, it really never happened other than the Alabama game. So you know
Oh, yeah. I mean,
that will be interesting.
yeah, I'm kind of on that bandwagon a little bit. I already picked them to lose to Colorado, and that almost happened. But no, I think A&M, you know, I when I first saw this game on the schedule last week, I thought, okay, Arkansas just dumped Texas. They're not the team that they usually are. And then I'm like, they got them at home, but they don't. They're playing in a neutral site in Jerry's World. So I think if Arkansas had him at home, I'd give them maybe a really decent chance if they could jump on them and dominate them, get the crowd going nuts, maybe
Yeah.
get that quarterback confused. But in Jerry's World, yeah, I think A&M is going to win the game. I really don't know how much. I'd like to see Arkansas make a game of it. That'd be kind of cool. But I think A&M just might be able to get to Alabama, you know, unscathed, so to speak, you know. But we'll see. So. We got here. I thought this was a pretty interesting game because both teams have lost one game, and last year Mississippi State just, of course, it was COVID year, but they were all over LSU like a bad suit. And of course, it
Hmm.
was COVID year, and LSU lost everybody in the world to the year before, you know.
Right.
So a lot of talk of if LSU don't win this game, and they probably need to because I think after this they've got the gauntlet. I'm going to pull it up right here real quick because I looked it up earlier. I don't want to misspeak on who's playing who.
That game at Michigan State.
It's at
I mean,
Mississippi State. Yeah,
at
it's
Mississippi
at
State.
Mississippi State. So that's one thing, and of course they throw the ball like crazy. So who knows what to expect from that game? But okay, it must be somebody else, not LSU. So yeah, if they don't beat Mississippi State, they go to Auburn, and they might have a tough time with Auburn, you know, and then Kentucky and then Florida. Kentucky's a hard
Oh,
out, even
they
though it's at
Auburn
LSU.
Auburn was all over them last year. Auburn beat them pretty
Yeah,
bad.
yeah. So yeah, they got some tough games ahead if they don't win this one. So Mississippi State is the team that they're playing, and that's who. If they don't beat LSU, they're gonna have a tough road ahead because their games coming up after this are. Let me see here. Why didn't it get? It's
Well,
this
that
is one I
that
looked this
L-
up. It's what's that?
LSU Mississippi State is really strength against strength. Mississippi State wants to throw the ball, you know, and LSU has a very good defensive backfield. You know, one of the best
Yeah.
defensive backs in the country. So,
Oh yeah.
kind of
So
and strength there. So we'll just kind of see what happens.
and LSU is probably going to win the line of scrimmage, and that quarterback for Mississippi State is probably going to have to get rid of the ball early, or he's going to be picking grass out of his mouth. So he's not going to have a lot of time to throw the football. So
I don't think.
I'm definitely thinking LSU should win this game. But man, stranger things have happened. But I would think LSU should win this game.
Mhm.
You know, even though it's a road game. But if Mississippi State loses this, they go to A&M, then they come home to Alabama. So it's like, okay, boy, you're looking at 3 losses in a row if you don't win this one. You know, before you play Vanderbilt. By that time, your season may be so over you might lose to Vanderbilt. But
Right.
so yeah, LSU. I'm if they lose Mississippi State, they're gonna at Orgeron is gonna be back on the the hot seat as far as the social media goes. One of the bigger contests, numbers wise, even though numbers mean nothing this time of year, Notre Dame, Wisconsin. I think both teams are not quite what some people hope they were this year. Notre Dame, that game first week of the season against Florida State was like, holy cow, they look great. Florida State's back. Everything looks great. Well, then Florida State has looked so bad afterwards.
Yeah.
And then Notre Dame struggled with Toledo and Purdue. It's like, well, maybe Notre Dame isn't as good as we thought they were. And then Wisconsin dominates Penn State, still loses the game with turnovers. So this will be an interesting game, but and this is another neutral site game. They're at a Soldier Field in Chicago. So my one part of me wants to say Notre Dame should win this game, but I just got a feeling Wisconsin is going to ball control them to death. But I don't know. How do you see it?
Well, I don't know. It's tough to say. Like you said, these teams. I mean, Notre Dame just gets people hammering on Notre Dame because they're not winning big right now, but they're winning. So
Oh, yeah.
I said a neutral site. You still got Notre Dame. Let's see if Wisconsin, like you said, if they can control the ball, it'll be good. It'll be a good game. I'm kind of like you. I really don't know who to pick here, but I'm going to go with Notre Dame. My son's
Notre
a
Dame.
big fan, I know, so I gotta back him up a little bit here.
Well, there you go. Yeah, and I feel like the line of scrimmage is going to be the difference. I think I'm leaning a little bit towards Wisconsin, but this could be a really tight game. Jack Cohn going against the Badgers after he's with there last couple of years, so that's another storyline in that game. So, no offense to Purdue or Toledo, because Purdue's a tough out. That's an old rivalry with Notre Dame. And Toledo, people are like, oh, it's a MAC school, you should kill them. There's always that talk, but yet people don't give respect to a lot of those smaller schools that got a lot older guys. Who is it that they're talking about? Like, I think it was Appalachian State. They got like 23-year-old guys still playing because of COVID up against 18-year-olds.
Right.
That's a tough out for young freshmen to play, against guys that are grown men almost and stuff. So, I'm reading the blogs on the Buckeye game this week, and everybody's just saying, oh, Akron, Ewers can beat Akron if he went in there. It's like, and I post on there. I'm like, don't just sit there and discount Akron just because they're Akron. I mean, there's still football players on that other team, and they still know how to play. So anything can happen. And I'm not going to sit there and disrespect somebody just because they're a MAC school or a group of five. I mean,
you can't really disrespect those teams, but I mean, honestly, they are outmatched when it comes to talent.
Oh yeah.
And in the depth of the teams, I know that's another great big difference. But like you said, you disrespect them every now and then. Those teams jump up and bite you. Appalachian State done it several times to teams. Did it to Michigan a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
So they'll come out and give you a fight.
Yeah, but if they play great. If a team like that is cohesive and plays great together and executes. And you don't, meaning Ohio State, if they don't execute, and I'm really talking about the line of scrimmage. That's where Ohio State's losing their games, even though they've won them all except one. But where they're just looking horrible, it all deals with the line of scrimmage. No pass rush. The guy who stands back there has all day to throw. There's not very many teams that can cover everybody the whole time.
That's not going to happen this week.
Probably not. I hope not. But so
it's not.
Well, you did say Oregon was going to lose, but now Rutgers and Michigan. The reason why I got this game on here because this is the best defense Michigan's going to see so far. Michigan. A lot of people are high on Michigan. I know I'm a Ohio State fan. Yes, I am inclined to say a lot of bad things about Michigan, but in this forum, I'm keeping it real. I know they've looked better than they've looked in a long time. They have played sub opponents. So is Ohio State. They haven't looked that good either. So you're beating the teams you're supposed to beat. How you're supposed to beat them based on who you are and your talent. So this is going to be a good measuring stick. If they can look really good against Rutgers, not that Rutgers is a crazy great team, but they're Schiano team, well coached. Make sure you got to if you don't take them lightly, they'll go right by you and beat you by 4 points or whatever. So good test for the Wolverines at the Big House. Rutgers coming to town. I think Michigan will win the game, but I don't think it's going to be 62-0 like what happened the last couple of weeks with some teams. So. Good game there if you're a Big Ten fan. And then this one right here is interesting. UCLA came off a tough loss to Fresno State. All of a sudden, Fresno State looks really good. They almost beat Oregon. Then they go and beat UCLA. UCLA beat LSU. And here's Stanford switching quarterbacks. pounding USC to where they fire Clay Helton. Now UCLA's got to go in there, and all of a sudden Stanford is a team to be reckoned with, albeit the Pac-12, but still, should be an interesting game. And obviously UCLA is going to be looking to bounce back after a tough loss. Couldn't get the other team, the Fresno State, off the field and gave up the win. So
Yeah,
big time.
I think UCLA will be okay. I think they have the better coach of the two teams. It'll be interesting. I'm still not sold on the Pac-12 and the Big Ten. I'll go ahead and throw this controversy out there. I know a lot of times during the season they have teams ranked up in the top 10, but the bottom line to me is the Big Ten is still about Ohio State. Ohio State will beat Penn State, they will beat Michigan, and Penn State will win the Big Ten again. Yeah, I mean, that's just the way I see it. Do I want to see great games? Oh, absolutely. Do I want to see them get beat? Sure. But I just don't. I don't see it happening. I look at what they bring in year after year, and I know they're young, and obviously I think that they're going to get better, but I still don't think that these other teams are going to beat Ohio State.
Well, I hope you're right as an Ohio State fan. From an Ohio State fan standpoint, some of the things that go through my mind is and this is one of those weird things where they talk about a Michigan guy, an Ohio State guy, whatever, Ohio guy, Urban Meyer, Ohio guy, John Cooper wasn't an Ohio guy, Tressel, Ohio guy. I know that Ryan Day is not an Ohio guy, but I do believe he is a very good coach. Everybody's like, oh, he's one of the, it's too early to sit there and put him up in the top 5 coaches that are in the country right now, in my opinion. And that's no offense to him. It's just too early. We're talking 2 seasons, and then part of another one. Way too early. Yes, he's held serve in the Big Ten. That's what he's supposed to do. He's done it good. So now we're starting to trickle into where it's less of Urban Meyer's leftovers and more of his and stuff, his defense. Things got to get switched around. Guys got to develop, and we'll just see what happens. Do I want him to do good? Yes, but I feel like if he loses a game or two, but if he especially loses to Michigan, whether he should have or not from a talent standpoint or how well they're playing, I should say, it's going to start trickling to people's ears. Urban never lost, and Urban beat him when we shouldn't have beat him, blah, blah, blah. So those are the things that play in my mind. Like I said last week, John Cooper years are still in my head. They sting as well as they did 25 years ago. So, or 30 years ago.
Michigan right now wants to, they want to run the ball. They want to establish, the run.
Yep.
And, I think, Ohio State's front 7. I don't think that they're going to run the ball that well. I mean, they don't have a big running back to pound you with anyways.
Right.
So, I think that's one thing. Now, does Ohio State go to Penn State this year?
No, it's at Ohio because they played Penn State last year. So they got Penn State at Ohio State. That's one of their positives.
That helps them a whole lot. I was going to say, Penn State, from what I seen the other day, that could be a little bit interesting. But at Ohio State, that swings it even more back into Ohio State's favor, in my opinion. But I just don't see. I watch Michigan every year, and every year you think they're going to do it. Harbaugh's going to get over the hump. He's going to be a great coach. I thought he was. Whenever he went there, I thought, give him a couple of years, man. He's going to have the Big Ten, Michigan that we've known when we were younger. Yeah. There goes the Nerf wars going flying by me in the background. But anyways, I thought he would do well, but I mean, he hasn't done as well as I thought he would, and I know he's really focused on beating Ohio State this year, and he obviously he thinks he can do it with this run game, unless he's got something up his sleeve that he's holding out, just for Ohio State. Well, maybe, I don't know, but I just don't see it happening right now.
Yeah, I tend to agree, only because I can't get worried about Michigan after the 3 games they've played and who they've played. Because we've seen this song dance before. Michigan one year played Hawaii first, played a couple other teams. Best defense in the nation. They were highly ranked. They got into the Ohio State game, and Dwayne Haskins just carved them up, and they ended up firing their defensive coordinator. So, Ohio State's a different animal. They got to, if they get things rolling, which I believe they will, I hope they will, but I believe they will. I'm an optimist. They got too many weapons. That new running back is another weapon. That guy is just incredibly fast and shifty. They all projected him to be the starter by the end of the year, and he looks like he's going to be doing it within the next couple of weeks. So it's just going to be interesting. I look for Ohio State to turn things around. I don't think it's going to be a quarterback change for the good. I know Stroud's not playing this weekend because he's nursing a shoulder. I know a lot of people think that's
Right.
just conjecture to get somebody else in there. They do need to get the other guys in there because both those guys haven't thrown any passes yet in college. So you might as well get them in there and play against no offense Stack or the team we're supposed to beat or whatever. So a good week to give them some rest and get some other guys some reps because you know how college football is. You almost always need a backup that's ready to go. Our team both have won national championships with backups, so you know
Right.
it's happened. It does happen. It will happen. So looking ahead, you know, we also have I think the West Virginia Oklahoma game is pretty interesting. Big 12 matchup. West Virginia's played pretty decently, and Oklahoma's underwhelmed a little bit, like a lot of the teams that are coming back from last year. It's at Norman. I'm going to take the Sooners, so to speak, but you know I look for West Virginia to maybe make a game of it, and if Oklahoma comes out flat, look out. West Virginia may just like shock them at home.
Yeah, I mean that's possible. I don't think that's going to happen. I think you're going to see some teams that people have doubted and said that they're not that good. I think a couple of these teams are going to turn it on here. You know, we're getting close to halfway through here, and I think you'll see some teams turn it on. I think Oklahoma has a good opportunity to be one of those teams. Uh, you know, Clemson maybe everybody's been hammering on Clemson. You know, their offense is so bad, but you know, I just kind of wonder what's going to happen here in the future. And when Notre Dame also, you know, where people just kind of beating them up, you know, because they're not doing what they're, you know, I don't know. Everybody expects you to win there by 50 or whatever, but you know, to me,
Yeah.
a win. But I think you're going to see at least a couple of those teams are going to turn it on and really come on and be what we thought that they were going to be. And I think there's also going to be a couple of teams that are going to be just the opposite of that and not be what we thought they were and kind of fall off the map.
Yeah, you know, one of the teams that comes to mind that's kind of filling that role a little bit, even though it's very early in the season, is North Carolina. People had a lot of high hopes for that team, even though they
Mm-hmm.
lost some serious offense to the NFL. You know, a lot of times you got a quarterback who can ride a hot hand, and he didn't have a very good first game against Virginia Tech, but they've turned it around a little bit. You know, so it's going to see what they can do, and obviously in the ACC, you know, with Clemson, you know, you would expect them at some point to turn it on, but at the same time, their resume really is not great looking ahead because the ACC is just not stacked with teams that are being ranked right now, and that's not really changing at the moment. Who knows what's going to happen in the next few weeks? So I think if Clemson, if the ACC dynamic doesn't change, and they perhaps don't get back to what we've been seeing the last couple of years with Clemson, I think that and Oklahoma maybe being the only team, if Iowa State doesn't really give them a title run against the Big 12, you know, somebody to win it against, so to speak, you know, or a good run for it. It kind of
Mm-hmm.
opens up for the Pac-12 a little bit. If Oregon runs the table, now I think Pac-12 was probably going to get a team in, you know, or have a good chance, just because they got a great win against us, you know, even and that obviously that wouldn't be that good if Ohio State has a bad year, which they
Mm-hmm.
probably won't. But I mean, who knows, man? There's just so much football between now and then. And I still think, you know, we both agree that I tell you the SEC West is just going to be every week. There's one or two games that matter a lot, and who's going to win the SEC West, you know. And obviously
Yeah.
this week LSU and Mississippi State are playing each other. One of those teams is going to get the loss. That's just going to move them down in that one loss category of the West.
Yeah, one of the big knocks on the SEC from a lot of people, especially from other conferences, is well, you know, they only play 8 conference games and they have the cupcake games. Well, you know, I don't buy the cupcake thing because I mean, just look around at all the teams and you know you're going to see that. But you know, you look at the 8 conference games that they play, and to be honest with you, I would trade schedules with just about anybody.
Oh, no doubt.
You know, let everybody else have that LSU and Auburn and you know Florida, Georgia, um, you know Ole Miss. I mean that division is really becoming very good and very competitive.
Oh
Uh,
yeah. Yep.
I think that's probably the strongest division in college football. I think we could easily say that.
Yeah. I think
And
right now it certainly is. Absolutely.
yeah, and the Pac-12 with Oregon, I just kind of wonder about the Pac-12 still. Seen Oregon. They got that defensive end, and all you heard was about he'll be the first round pick. He's all world. He's this. He's that. Well, you know, he started a karma coin. And I'm just thinking,
Right.
are these guys really all this going to take away from their football and their ability? Because it doesn't take much, a little bit of edge, and somebody's going to get by you.
Oh yeah.
Somebody's going to be a little bit better. Somebody's going to work a little bit harder. And I mean, I'm not saying that's a bad thing that he did this, but you see these things and you hear of guys
Right.
making big. They made $1 million. Hey, I started karma coin. It's going to shoot up to millions of dollars. Whatever it may be.
Right.
I just wonder sometimes. I'm thinking, oh, what about football? I
Yep.
mean,
Yep.
you're there to play football. So I kind of wonder, and we've talked about it before, what kind of effect this is going to have. And I think there's going to be some type of effect to it. Hopefully, it's not something that changes, changes dramatically or anything. But I do when I see that stuff, I'm kind of like, what? What?
Yeah. I think it was Danny Cadell I heard on the radio this week say that in his opinion, another person he was talking to agreed with him that they think, they're talking about, look at all the teams that aren't quite what they were last year. Yes, they lost some players, but he said, is there any chance that some of this is also affected by NIL? Guys don't have their mind focused because they're focusing on their money. And, if you think about it, you're trying to play college football because depending on who you are, you want to get to the NFL. Not everybody goes to the NFL. It's a small percentage of college players that make it there. And there's some that have coming out of high school, they know they're a hot prospect. They got a good chance as long as things go the way they want them to go, barring injury and all that. Now all of a sudden, you look at the guy for Ohio State, he's got $1 million in his pocket, and he ain't even picked up a football, laced up a cleat yet, So is he going to try as hard in film, or is he, that's the kind of thing that could happen and it could be happening, and why things aren't going as nicely as you would think they could or should have been for some teams because they're not putting in the effort. And trust, this is all just speculation. I hope not. I hope people still want to play football and play it to the best of their ability. Because what little you make now is could be trumped by how truckloads of money in the NFL, and that's what we like about college football is they ain't playing for the money.
Right, absolutely, and I agree with I agree with him. I think that's exactly what I was saying earlier. That I think that could be a problem. I mean, easily be sidetracked when it comes to the almighty dollar. What's the root of all evil. Here we go. So,
I guess one of the things I heard the quarterback for Clemson, and I'm sure a lot of them are doing this. We don't live in a college town, but in the college town with Clemson, he's on 3 or 4 commercials, and so it's like, well, when is he shooting these things? Taking away from it's preparation, taking from schooling. It's like, when are they making these commercials and stuff? So, it's definitely could be a complete part of the issue. There's no doubt about it.
And all of a sudden, you're not playing well, and you're not making quick decisions and that type of thing. Because I mean, that's what he's getting knocked on right now. So
right.
It makes you wonder. That like I said, there's going to be some type of effect. How much we don't know, but it seems like we are starting to find out a little bit.
I think what'll happen at some point, who knows when, why, who, or where. It may not be a national championship game, but a big game is going to be a team with some NIL people against a team that doesn't have NIL people, and that team without the NIL people is going to thump them because they're there to play football. They're not there to take pictures and stuff, So you can see that coming at some point.
Yeah, maybe when they open up this, when they open up the playoffs to more teams, maybe like the team we were talking about earlier, maybe a lesser team,
right.
And well coached, a little more focused, and knocks off a team that they normally would not knock off.
Yeah. Kind of like a Cincinnati or something. No offense to them, right. But they probably don't have the NIL quite like a Ohio State or somebody, bigger school, bigger brand, and all that. But they got players, and and like they said, for a whole season, UC probably wouldn't do as awesome as people will think they would do inside the Big Ten for the whole season. One
No,
game, hey, it's only one game. You got to win
sure.
one game, so that's a whole different ball game, literally, whole different dynamic. So let's see. What time is Cream Puff versus Bama on tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm not. I don't. It doesn't matter.
Hey, I ain't making fun because Cupcake versus the Buckeyes is on at night,
Yeah.
which is, I thought really the first night game we got is against Akron,
Is,
whatever. So
is against Akron. That's
yeah,
like I
like,
said earlier. I mean, those teams have those games, and people act like they don't understand it. Well, the fact of the matter is, those teams that makes their budget, and we talked
right.
a little bit about that last week. That makes their budget for the entire year,
Oh yeah,
so they can have all the other athletic stuff that they have, for that doesn't bring in that stuff, baseball, girls softball, volleyball, whatever it may be that doesn't bring that in. These games allow these schools to have that budget to run those programs and do a lot of things for the other programs that doesn't bring in that kind of money. So whenever
yeah.
you see that, there's a benefit to it, and there's a reason why they continue to do it in college football.
Oh
And
yeah,
I mean,
and
it is, it's going to happen, and it's going to be there. Um, you know,
and
and
I understand it, and I don't have a problem with it because I know those small schools got to make money too, and that's about one of the only ways they can do it at that particular time. Is by going somewhere and being a sacrificial lamb for like $4 or $5 million,
yeah,
and
well,
and like you said, that helps them make their budget for all the other small programs, whether it's sports or whatever else.
oh yeah,
And
you
you hope that doesn't go away because if the way the
right.
dynamic could change and they get rid of that stuff, now all of a sudden small schools are going to be really hurting.
Yeah, well, you can imagine as an athletic director, you're getting a call on these things, and you're going, oh, let's see here. We have, we have Marshall, and we have Kent State, and we Ohio State here, and we can make $3.5 million. Yeah, well, yeah, we'll just go ahead and play them.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and for the kids that go to that school, it's like, hey, we get to play on national television in front of 100,000 people. Maybe some of them always wanted to go to Ohio State, didn't get recruited. There's all kinds of, storylines. It's traditionally those games have all been in the first couple weeks, and now they're starting to sprinkle in big games in the first week, and then they sprinkle in those games later. And I get it because it makes the first week interesting. If everybody played a garbage team in the first week, then it might as well be a preseason. So
Mm-hmm.
you were talking about like the SEC teams and the 8 games and all that. One thing I said to somebody when they were dogging Alabama was, I said, well, you know what? It's worked pretty well for them, and they won a lot of national championships. So
Yeah,
you can't dog, and it's not their fault they don't play 9 games. That's done by the conference. Like the
yeah,
Big Ten a
yeah,
few years
that's
ago said we're going to 9 games, but the SEC hasn't. And I honestly believe the major reason for that is they want to make sure they're helping out the smaller schools. I mean, yeah, it's not like if Alabama played nothing but cream puffs all year, they probably wouldn't be as good. I firmly believe that some of Ohio State's issues over the last 5 or 6 years is the rest of the Big Ten is just not good enough to make them hardened enough to beat the big boys when they get far. That's why they've got creamed by Clemson a few years back and other
well,
schools because and that's why I think Alabama and LSU teams are a little more battle tested because they're playing a
well,
little bit tougher competition in the regular season and they're seeing tough, tough, tough. So, yeah, teams like Michigan State, Penn State, Michigan, you want those schools to get better. So it's better for everybody when the Big Ten gets in there. They're more competitive. Ohio State did really good last year in the first game. Obviously, they did about as good as anybody could have done against Alabama last year. No big deal. But now a lot of those guys are gone. It's just tough to reciprocate that. And even Bama's, they're doing it better than anybody else. And even them, it's not like it's just going perfectly. I mean, Saban will be the first one to tell you, they got a lot to work on, and he's right. They gave us some
yeah.
yardage against that Florida. So
One of the big things that I've seen, I can't remember who it was that I watched last year. It might have been Michigan State, Ohio State. I can't remember who it was, but I'm watching the game and I'm like, it looks like one team's in slow motion. The other team, like, I mean, they're playing full speed, and the other
Right.
team's in slow motion. And then I watched this all in one day. Then I watched Clemson, and I can't remember who it was, Pitt or somebody, and I thought the same thing. And then I watched, I believe it was, I think it was Alabama and Auburn, and I'm like, this is
Looks
like,
like a
yeah,
faster game.
now I feel like I'm watching them fast forward.
Right. Right.
So I think that's one of the things going back to the whole battle tested thing. I think it is the speed of the teams and the speed of the game is what the difference is whenever whenever they step out and start seeing the final four, the final eight, whatever it's going to
Right.
be.
Right.
Yeah, I think there's definitely something to be said about what you just mentioned.
Yeah. I mean, as good as Oklahoma's been, they just don't see that much stiff competition in the regular season in the Big 12. And same with, a few years back it was Washington. Before that, Oregon got it.
Mm-hmm.
And Oregon was really awesome the year that they lost to Ohio State because they had the Heisman, Mariota, and they were really dynamic, but they just didn't have the rotation and the players to go 4 quarters with a team built like Ohio State.
Right.
And so, and that's where Oklahoma, the knock on the Big 12 over the years, they just don't play defense. Everybody just tries to outscore everybody, and that works in the regular season most of the time. In your conference, when you get into this playoff system they've got going now, that's where you can't hide, from what you don't do well. So there's no doubt. I mean, when Ohio State with JT Barrett played Clemson, just got creamed 35-0 or something.
31 to
That was,
nothing.
yeah, that was ugly. I mean, it was just ugly. But you know what? We were just outmanned and outmatched, and we were really good that year. For the most part. But the Big Ten just wasn't as good. So a lot of these teams hopefully are catching up. There's a lot of across the board, a lot of good teams that hopefully are getting better and better. I think there's a game on tonight, and I saw that Virginia's losing to who was it? They were playing. I got it up here. If it gives me the scores. The ACC, Virginia. Wake Forest is up 10-0 on Virginia. That's kind of a shocker. So
Yeah, they had Marshall and Appalachian State last night.
right.
So who won that game?
Let me see if that's in here. Dum, 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 dum. Where is the Thursday game? You think it would be right at the top, but no, it's not. You think it would be, so let me get the. I'm gonna put it up here or not. Here we go. Really, they don't have a. They don't have it on here. Oh well, I'm not sure. Yeah, but anyways, ESPN for you. That's why we don't like them. But so, anyways, a lot of good games on tomorrow, and of course next week it's just another slate. A lot of teams are getting into the really meat of the beginning of their regular season conference schedules, and that's where it's just going to get really interesting. Of course, nothing. I would say top of the pile for sure was Alabama Ole Miss, and I think it's at Tuscaloosa. So Alabama's got a nice home game. I personally am going to take Alabama in that. I just think I know it seems like every year wherever Lane Kiffin lands, they just talk so much great about him, and it just seems to not happen the way they just talk it up. But I think as good as they are, I don't think they're at Alabama's level yet. But I could be dead wrong, so we'll find out next week for sure.
I think they have an real interesting game coming up is Georgia and Oregon.
Georgia's playing Oregon?
I'm pretty sure.
Oregon.
Looking that up the other day. What did I see?
I will go to that right now if I can.
I'm in my daughter's office. I don't have my.
Boy, I did not hear that. That's that is a huge game for Oregon. I haven't already played Ohio State. If that's true, man. Let me get down to the Pac-12 and Oregon pukes. I'm sorry, Ducks. Let's see here. Oregon State.
Oregon State.
They don't play Georgia anywhere on there. No. They got Arizona, Stanford, Cal, UCLA, Colorado, Washington, Washington State, Utah, Oregon State. So maybe next year or something. Maybe it's a non-conference game, but not this year.
I was looking at looking at an article the other day, and they were talking about Georgia and Oregon. I mean, heck, it might have been Oregon State. I wasn't listening that close. I just kind of caught the
Yeah,
Georgia Oregon, and
I,
that
I know.
got my attention real quick. So I didn't
I
look
know
into
that.
it up or anything. So
I know. Last week I saw they showed upcoming home and home games. With big teams. Notre Dame,
mm,
Ohio State got a home and home coming up. I can't remember when it is. It's later in the decade. I think Alabama and Ohio State got a home and home coming up.
yeah, 20,
You know,
27, 28, I believe.
right? And then Georgia may be playing Oregon and something like that. Maybe they announced it, but it's not coming out for a couple years. I don't know, but
Hey,
that's one thing we didn't talk about this week at all, and it's probably because they're just not playing anybody. But looking at Georgia, let's go to them real quick since they're, by far it just seems like they have the defense to beat in college football. Period. They are, really, really hard, sound up front. And I know it's the crack is maybe that their back end isn't quite as good. I don't know how anybody knows that because who's had time to throw on that team?
yeah,
I mean, they're
yeah. I mean, from what I've seen, um, and I know Georgia's offense have, kind of, obviously sputtered against Clemson, but I think Clemson's defense is also, a pretty good defense. But I mean,
right.
across the board, and going through the first 3 weeks, I think Georgia's the best team in the country.
Yeah, they 10-3 to Clemson, 56-7 UAB, and then 40-13 on South Carolina. They got Vanderbilt tomorrow, so there should be no way Vanderbilt's in that game at all. Then they play Arkansas. Arkansas is probably just going to come off a beat down from Alabama or A&M. Then they got
Yeah.
Auburn and Kentucky, and then Florida Georgia game. That's October 30th. That'll be a nice one. And then
Mm-hmm.
the rest of the year they just I really would be shocked if Georgia doesn't run the table and go completely undefeated to the SEC championship game. I don't see them losing to
I
anybody.
mean, the Auburn could be interesting, but it's going to come down to Florida, Georgia. I think everybody's pretty much known that all along.
Yeah, I mean, they seem like the kind of team that's just going to load the box up on Auburn and dare Bo Nix to beat them. And I don't know if they've got the team that do that. Plus, they're pretty stout man to man. If whoever gets there in the West, which it could, I think it'll be Alabama, but who knows? At this time, it's going to be an interesting game against Georgia. There's no doubt. And from that standpoint, if the West is probably going to be a 0 or 1 loss team going into that game. And if they lose, they're a 2-loss team. But if they win, then you're talking is Georgia got 1 loss in the SEC championship game. Now we're talking 2 SEC teams in CFP. That's all talk for another month from now. So we don't like to
Yeah.
project that early.
Yeah.
So, all right, man. I'll let you get back to your birthday party for your grandson, right?
Yeah, my grandson. It's Hayden. He's 3 years old. So they
Oh, to
got
be
him.
3 again, right?
Yeah, they're him and his older brother. He's 4. So I mean, she's got 3 kids within 4 years. She got her hands full.
So did you get him
They.
a Bama shirt for his birthday? A little Bama shirt?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And they actually, we have here at work with all the clients. I found a buckeye tree last week.
I saw your
And
post.
yeah, so we started. We went and collected a whole bunch of buckeyes, and we made buckeye necklaces. That's what we've been doing this whole week,
Okay.
and the clients are selling them for $10. I mean, they're kind of cool. Each one's got 8 or 10 buckeyes on each one, and of course, it's all done in Ohio State, OHIO, and red spray, and all that stuff. So and it's so that they can go. Do some stuff for the fall, go to the pumpkin farm, that kind of stuff. Because a lot of these clients, they don't get they don't get the enjoyment that most people do. So it's really
Right.
something for them to get out and do something. So they've been making buckeye necklaces. I couldn't tell you how many times I've had a buckeye necklace on this week. Oh, this one fit, that one fits. But it's been fun doing it with them. So like Buckeye fever here, man.
Awesome. If you got any extras, put me down for one. I'll help you out.
That you know what I told Amy today. I said, you know what? I said Fletch will take one of these. I know he will. I said I'm going to make him one.
Do it.
That was
I'd be happy to contribute. Absolutely.
good deal.
All right, man. Well, I'm looking forward to another week of some good games, and then of course next week's going to be even more good games. And
Oh yeah,
it's good, turning the page to October, and that's when the real football really starts. September is kind of the warm up, so October, November,
yeah.
that's
I guess
where
we're
championships are
here
won.
doing the show. This works out really well.
Yep, absolutely. All right, man. Go enjoy it, and
Okay.
we will see everybody next week. Let me get over here to where I need to go to put on this, and we will sign off and enjoy the football, everybody. And we will see you right here next Friday. Well, 7 or 8ish. We'll just see how it goes. And of course, obviously, in a few weeks, we'll be back on Saturday morning, but not for a few
Yeah.
more weeks. So
All right.
enjoy the
Have a good one.
football and have a good weekend.